It's SacTV.com. I'm Alex Cosper. Today's guest, Charlie Thomas.
Hey.
A radio star from Sacramento, like going way back. I started listening to you on KRXQ when it was 93 Rock.
That's
back
right.
in late 80s, like 88. And you stayed there for a long time.
Yeah.
Then you went to the Eagle for a while. I went to San Diego, and then you went to the Eagle at that time. And you were doing mornings?
I did nights for a number of years. I went to the Eagle in '99 after being 13 years doing afternoons at 93 Rock.
Yeah.
And did nights until 2014 and then got moved into the morning show, which I wanted to do. I did that until 2021, so for 7 years.
And then you retired, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we're going to talk about your radio career, that long radio career, almost as long as, what, Pat Martin?
Almost.
Yeah.
40 years for me.
Yeah.
I think Pat got started, he knew what he wanted to do in college and,
Yeah.
his dream happened.
Now, we were talking before the show, you mentioned that you went to Princeton
Yeah.
University.
Had a rigorous education and got an engineering degree, and it got me moved out to California, but I was doing technical writing and just didn't like it. So let me do something I have a passion for. And so it turned out to be radio, and that was really my destiny, I think, to be in radio.
What was it that attracted you to radio?
As a kid, I had gotten 13 years old, a little reel-to-reel recorder, cheapy thing. I was disappointed I couldn't multi-track on it.
Yeah.
Layer it. But
Bounced back and forth between two of them, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I was fascinated by sound, and
Yeah.
I started playing guitar at that same time. So I had an amplifier. What happens when I turn up reverb? Oh, what about the mid-range on the EQ? Oh, that's what it does. So I liked playing with sound, being a sonic architect. So that and for almost every day for 40 years, I was in a recording studio.
Oh, really? Okay.
And just at the station.
Okay, right.
Being on the air, I also...
But they made you do commercials.
For a number of years, well, I was production director for a number of years too, and it's
Okay.
what I wanted to do. And I wasn't an engineer in the sense of being able to repair equipment. I had my engineering staff that could do that, but I could spot problems in there and say, look, we're left channel was running a little low here. Whatever I could point out, and then have an engineer come in and solder pieces in place for me. And I taught people how to use the equipment. And back in those days, in '89, we had a 1-inch 8-track. And there were just a handful of us who knew how to use that. Me and Pat Martin, who was doing the middays.
That was on its way out, though, right?
Well, not until the mid-90s. I mean,
Okay.
we used that, and then I started using the made the transition into digital recording. At that time, it was an Orban DSE 5000. It became the Orban Odyssey back in the early 90s. And that was cool to use. And then making the transition to software. I didn't really like Pro Tools as much for radio, so we started using Adobe Audition. So I was kind of an early adopter of digital recording.
Okay. Yeah, whereas I was at Quad, Crosstown Station, and we had old equipment all along and kept on having it until probably, I left in '96, and then they might have finally gotten things on computer after that. But, it was weird because when you started in radio, was it computerized or were you?
Oh, no, I started in '81, so we were
Okay.
certainly using grease pencils and razor blades to edit, and it was so tedious. And with the digital tools, you could do in 15 minutes what used to take me an hour to do.
Yeah.
It's just editing.
But I used to love the razor blade cutting up interviews. But then we would keep those reels with all the splices on them.
Exactly. I just end up with a lot of
You'd have
dropouts in your audio.
dropouts in them and stuff.
But at the same time, you still had to have good copy and a concept for a commercial. It just the mechanism for recording it became easier.
Yeah. So you started at KRXQ in '88. Tell us about.
No, I started in '84.
Okay, because you were
was
K-pop.
Which
K-pop
became
was rock of the '80s, but it changed the top
it was
40.
more like a top 40 briefly there, and I started when it was top 40, and we had Robin, Skinny, and Cowan doing the mornings.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a an adventuresome station, but it just didn't. It was really popular with teens, but never grew out of that, and so
advertisers wanted adults.
Exactly, they're always looking for the choice, demographics, and so Fuller Jeffrey decided to pull the plug on it and go where they felt was the void was KZAP was doing rock, but they were really not playing hard rock. And we came in January of '86 and launched 93 Rock.
Yeah.
By
with Dave Schuyler in the morning.
Yeah,
a
I
friend
was
of mine.
I was there that day when he
barricaded himself
yeah.
in the station, but he said that was just a radio stunt.
It was a stunt. The management could have taken care of it, but they went, let's see where this goes. And it really was an interesting launch that day. And I went there. I remember driving, going, what's going on here?
And was his morning show called The Rude Awakening there?
At one point, he had several incarnations, I think. And then Dave it wasn't his 93 Rock format, wasn't really his liking, so he
was a top 40 guy.
Yeah, and he ended up going to LA and doing well. So.
Well, he went to Quad a few times.
Well, exactly. Yeah, and I heard him a bit there, too. Because I was listening to you guys as well when I wasn't just consumed with 93 Rock.
Right. We were top 40 in the 80s, alternative in the 90s. And then we became competitors, in a way, when Pat Martin was the PD.
And Pat was just briefly the PD. It was, Judy McNutt came in 88.
She was there for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, Pat was there for an institution.
She and Pam, that was the first two women team I had heard of in radio programming.
It was unusual. We launched 93 Rock in '86, and we were playing more aggressive rock, playing AC/DC, and Judas Priest, which KZAP wasn't playing.
Right.
We also became an early main active rock station rather than just a mainstream rock. We were playing a lot more current rock, and that made us popular.
Like Metallica when no one else was playing it, right?
Yeah, although we gave more an illusion of playing Metallica at that time.
Okay.
It's like we would play it late night, wouldn't really. But we were playing AC/DC and Judas Priest and that sort of sound.
Yeah.
And it was made us popular with the record companies because we're exposing a lot of new product, playing a lot of a current mix in there. And then but it never really took off. And then Judy McNutt came in '88 as a program director and brought in Larry Bruce as a consultant who'd been at KGB, and that's when he brought in Pat Martin. And that was the final piece of that puzzle. And I think we saw success because of the nature of the music too. It shifted to Def Leppard and Bon Jovi.
You had a bunch of those hits going on in the late 80s.
Yeah,
Bon
really
Jovi,
popular.
Oasis.
And the local connection to Tesla too, which I know Pat had talked about how he was instrumental in reuniting them, but really I was here in '86 when I had rumblings that, hey, Tesla's recording. City Kid, I recorded a spot for them, City Kid at the Oasis Ballroom, their final performance. And so then they changed the name to Tesla.
So you knew them before they were signed?
I knew of them, and then people were telling me, hey, this album, man, it's coming out, it's going to be really good. Okay, we'll see. And they brought it in, and I was probably one of the first people, maybe the first person in the country to play Tesla on the radio. And it's like, oh, this is really good. And so, it went from there. They ended up getting me on a music video for
Love Song?
No, now we were involved in Love Song, and I know you were there for that day. It was excruciatingly hot at Cal Expo. It was like 108 degrees or something ridiculous. Yeah. We did a banner contest and had people do 150 banners, and we chose some to put on stage. So I was there for that and all the 6 times they played Love Song. But I did The Way It Is, which was kind of a follow-up to Love Song, which was also a pretty popular song. And they had me in the studio, and then we had a performance video for The Way It Is. And actually, I love that because to get into the special performance video that they were going to record for MTV, people brought canned food items to get the ticket to it. And so we raised 3 tons of food for the Sacramento Food Bank. This was 1990.
Wow.
And that's, to me, the power of radio was to have an positive impact in your community.
I agree. That was like a driving force for me. But not everybody in radio. Like a lot of people were just trying to get dates off the phone,
The phone used to ring constantly. It's crazy that it was just constantly. I must have talked to 50 or 60 people every day.
Yeah.
And you had your regulars, but you had some people who just call in. And so it was early social media. And sometimes you put those messages out on the air. Well, Frank just called in from Orangevale, and he says that there's some kind of strange commotion going on. You were kind of the early social media.
Yeah. It kind of made it like unique social local news, kind of. But you guys really supported the local music scene, which impressed me a lot.
Yes.
The show Local Licks.
Yep.
which Laura Engel did for
Yep.
a while, and then others, not Pam, but Kylie did it for a while, Kylie Brooks.
Yep.
Laura
Laura was really the one who got it started, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was amazing that you guys are playing local music on the air, and that inspired me to do a local show, The Sound of Sacramento on Quad. But you guys were definitely there first doing it.
And it was a dedicated show, like on Sunday nights or something. But then occasionally we'd mix it into the regular rotation.
Okay.
During the week, weekday play.
Is that how you found Tesla, or
no? Tesla was already they
signed.
Yeah, exactly. But Oleander was
Oleander,
yeah.
They were called Jack at first. Yeah, and then they became Oleander.
Well, and the reason we knew of it was because of John Nelson. John was our promotions director at the time, and he said, "Hey, this band Oleander." He had played with several of the guys. The I-Man, Rick Ivanisevich, he played in a band with him. So we took it and started playing them. And then, lo and behold, within a year, Why I'm Here becomes like a, national hit.
That sounded like a Doors song to me. It was very haunting and cool, that was their best song.
Absolutely. And then we had some others. Down When I'm Loaded was the first one we played. But so to take a band, that was really a case of legitimately where we took a local band and helped launch their career.
Yeah, like we did with Cake.
Yeah. Yep.
We also played the Deftones early, but not too much because they were so screamy in the beginning.
Yeah. There were a couple of bands that I miss. I remember Papa Roach coming to the studios in like 93 or something. And that was like, it wasn't my style. And so I didn't see them becoming stars. And when they did, I went, oh, okay, well, I understand now. Yeah. Didn't get it at first.
Yeah, so Sacramento had this vibrant local scene for a while. I think because of our two stations.
Yeah, good part.
I mean, you guys had the definitely hard rock sound going, and we were more the diverse modern rock sound. But you put those two together, and you get a local scene that's vibrant, and people are going to shows, and they hear about the bands, they hear them on the radio. And I thought that was an example of radio having its power with the community.
Absolutely. And to me, sometimes advertisers or commercials, man, it was part of our soup, that especially the cool clients like clubs like
Tower Records too.
The Tower, exactly, the music business. The Tower Records based here in Sacramento. So I enjoyed, and I recorded some of the commercials new from Tower Records. I don't know why you're charging $15.99 for a CD, but so with having Tower, having some of the clubs like the Boardwalk. Hey, Robin Trower is coming to the Boardwalk. Let me tell you about it. So, look, our listeners want to know about this. Dance clubs like The Rage, and Paradise Beach back in the 90s was huge. And having that association with us gave us a venue to drive people to where we could do fun events.
Yeah, and one of your funnest events that went down in history that I considered raiding but decided not to was when Metallica did a free show in '96 at Tower Records at Wattenell Community.
I was there.
Yeah. Now that I in a way I was sorry that we weren't there, but we weren't playing Metallica.
Make sense. Yeah.
But at the same time, I realized, okay, I knew Curtis Johnson, who led the station, and I didn't want to step on his toes in any way. I liked him, and I thought, let's not crash their party.
I just drove past the Tower coming down here for this and thought about that being there, because there were probably 2,500, 3,000 people.
Yeah, packed, right?
It was kind of our version of U2 when they were down in LA doing that little rooftop. Which had come from the Beatles, a rooftop concert, but I know KLOS had driven the U2 thing, and so it was our little mini version of that. And we were talking about on the radio beforehand, will it happen? Will it not happen? And 3,000 people show up for it.
Did the cops break it up, or did it?
Yeah. It went on for about a half hour. They just drove in, and we're there. And I think I was doing some broadcasting there. I'm not sure if they're going to come, but there's a crowd, and we were pretty sure they were going to come. And the truck pulls in, flatbed, they take down the sides, and it's set up, and they start playing for about a half hour.
Was it because they didn't have a sound permit, or why did the cops break it up?
I think so. There was some sort of technicalities on it, but they let it go for really a half hour, which was long enough, to get in 5 or 6 songs.
And that was to promote their new album at the time. The song that we even played for one time was Hero of the Day.
Right.
So I remember there was questions being raised. Should they be considered alternative? They just cut their hair and they looked different. They sounded different. They kind of were more pop sounding.
Yeah, a lot of their hardcore fans.
Yeah.
There's still an element. Is it still?
No, it's still going.
Okay.
In fact, it's just.
Okay.
Nah. Yeah, but that makes me want to move this up a little.
All right.
Everything's handcrafted here at SAC TV. I did this, took an hour, maybe more.
It's quaint but artistic.
Yeah. You are too. You say you play guitar.
Yeah, I played guitar since I was 13, and,
Yeah.
and I still do it every day now that I've retired. It gives me even more chances to do it, and I sometimes sit in with a band. One of my friends, Mike the winemaker, has a band, Wasted Space, and he has a studio up in his house where we go and plug in and play some songs. And also, during the 90s, with the Rise Guys, we had the Rise Guys band.
Yeah.
So I was playing guitar. Whitey Gleason, Just in Case, the Phantom were the Rise Guys.
Okay.
During the 90s. They were at 93 Rock for, like...
A long time.
In the 90s. Basically all of the 90s. And Whitey was a talented guy, and he would write parody songs, and quite often I would produce those songs for him, and maybe
at the station.
Yeah.
Okay.
And sometimes he would just use like backing tracks, but sometimes we would actually play the song, a truncated arrangement of it, and then he'd play it, for the next week on the air, and then we started putting out CDs of it. Maybe we'd sell 2,000 CDs of our gag songs and their bits. Then we started playing it live. We said, let's go out and play as a band live.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you had your band, and then Pat Martin was in a cover band, right?
Yeah, well, he was doing cover of it. Here we're doing the parody songs. It's really a station event with Whitey and Justin singing these songs. We would wear costumes and have props. We'd go to the boardwalk and get 400 people out for that. There was a concert at Sac State that we played. This was like in '97. There were probably 5,000 people there for that one. We played a half-hour set. So we played in '98.
Wow.
Actually,
That's funny because I played in a band too, and so your station kind of was musician based, just like ours.
Absolutely. So many radio geeks are sort of frustrated musicians anyway, or musicians at heart. Yeah.
Right. So but that to me, 93 Rock at the time, it later became 98 Rock, but 93 Rock obviously to me was the thing happening in the late 80s and early 90s, and it put KZAP out of business.
Well, KSAP, we pushed them to where they should have become what the Eagle became.
Yeah.
And when the Eagle came on
late
1990, November of 1990, I went, well, we're going to kill KSAP. And I hated it because Sacramento was like, I had been listening to it and loved KSAP.
Sure.
I was more of a rocker,
Yeah.
And I was sad, and I went, and people went, no, you're not going to, we're going to kill it. And it didn't take long. We killed it. The Eagle and...
Well, they got a PD from Ohio, somewhere back east, and he didn't know the market, I thought.
Yeah.
Like Pat Still had been the programmer, and he knew the market.
Yeah.
But then they switched to this other guy, Scott. And
I never knew him. But
he pretty much ran it into the ground to the
Yeah.
point where Quad was at the bottom of the ratings at the time, and we beat KZAP because we were playing the newer stuff, and they were trying to play the new stuff we were playing because it was a little more scaled down. It wasn't such hard rock. It was a song like Superman sung by Crash Test Dummies. They started playing because it was a big hit on our station. And that was like a ballad, a weird ballad that you would never hear on an AOR station or a rock, any kind of rock station until they start playing it. But that's the kind of stuff where we already had that crowd, and they were trying to be three things at once, I think.
And it was too late. It was all too late. And it was really a wise choice going to country.
Yeah.
And they've lasted since then. Because
Pat Still has... He's at
KNCI. Yeah.
Right. Is that what KZAP became?
I think so. Yeah, wasn't it?
98.5. They switched around the
Well,
dial.
we had the frequency swap there in '98. Where when '93 Rock became '98 Rock, and that's essentially when I moved out to the Eagle, right after that.
Yeah. So you were doing middays at KRXQ.
Afternoons, yeah.
Yeah, afternoons, right. That's right. And then you went to do
I went to do nights at the Eagle for a number of years, and it was fun because I had a 6 packs at 6. So I had 6 song requests that people would email me, and I'd get, seriously, 3,000 emails. 3,000 emails of people like, here's the 6 songs I'd like to request. And they'd send their phone number, I'd call them up, we'd talk about it, and then I'd sort of interplay, cut up the interview over the songs I requested, why it was important to them.
Yeah.
And so I did that for a number of years, and album sides at night. So I had a lot of choice in the music at that time. I would choose an album side, and the album, and we'd do that at 8 o'clock, and
there were great albums back then, like Dire Straits,
so many great
Brothers
albums.
in Arms.
But so you would play like 2 hits off the album, like on the Dire Straits album, you'd play, Money for Nothing and Walk of Life. But then I would play Brothers in Arms, which is such a tasty song. So I could do the tertiary tracks that rarely got play, and I could play those at night. And I had a lot of choice in that, so it was my own little personal stamp on the nighttime.
What did you like the most about being on the radio?
I think like being integrated with a community, of being able to have impact through.
I've seen you at so many public events. Like the last one was Skip's 40th anniversary.
Yeah, I did that.
And you were announcing stuff there, and I actually videotaped that whole thing. It's Skip. I got him. A legend.
Absolutely.
That's like the last video made of him, I think, and you're on it.
So that's cool. So that was like in old Sacramento.
That was the final Jazz Jubilee too.
It wasn't really, and it was a good crowd there. I remember Pablo Cruz played, and there were several bands that came up and
because Pablo Cruz has a connection. The drummer lived in Sacramento, and I went to high school with his wife.
Well, I've actually golfed with him, Steve.
Okay,
Steve Price.
Okay.
I know Steve. It's been a while, but yeah, I remember Steve and Skip. With Skip, I had for probably 15 years. I emceed the Stairway to Stardom, which was a great program. Yeah, that was a great program. It's still being done.
Very big, important part of the local music scene.
It really was for up and coming kids, 15 years old, getting together, forming these bands, and going. We would do it at the Crest Theater. We did it at the amphitheater at Quarry Park in Rockland a couple of years, and so kids getting a chance to be on stage, some of them for the first or maybe only time, will play in front of a big crowd, and so Skip made that happen. Larissa Brisky does a great job now with Girls Rock, sort of taken, because Larissa had been involved in that Stairway to Stardom for a while, and she's translated into this Girls Rock program. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's a great program.
I have not heard of it, but I'll check into that. You guys were also involved, like we were, with the Sammys. So I remember Pamela Roberts was hosting that while I was there doing something. So it's like both our stations were always doing these cool local events that don't happen anymore, I guess.
Well, or doesn't have radio involvement for sure.
Yeah. But Sacramento Bee was also important to us. Dan Vieira, the writer, he'd write about us all the time, and he'd write about you guys too.
Not as much. We were sort of a little bit miffed by that, but it was back when radio made the newspaper and people actually read newspapers.
So, wow, and radio today is such a different world. We started seeing it change in 1996 with the Telecom Act, but the effects didn't take effect till a few years later, and there was all this consolidation. But you lived through that.
Yeah.
I kind of got out of it for a while and then went back into it, but always usually with an independent owner, whereas
I stayed in the corporate realm.
You stayed in the corporate realm, but they let you do what you wanted, right?
To an extent. I mean, it was still enjoyable, and there were some benefits to having corporate ownership. We had more money to put on things like during the 2006, 2007, we put on our own mock rock shows. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't remember
Well,
that.
in '99, we had actually put on a couple of concerts. We had Leonard Skinner and ZZ Top at the Arco Arena, the old Arco. We put up the money for it, promoted it, to put the show together.
Wow.
And we're able to control it. So we had meet and greets. It was really cool to be able to do that with ZZ Top and Skinner. But then the casinos started pricing it to where we couldn't afford to put up the money for that.
Yeah.
And it's like, it was like quintuple.
Ticketmaster took over the whole concert industry.
But so we went, oh God, we can't afford to pay these bands. Why don't we get tribute bands to play? How would we did 2 years of that of some excellent tribute band, cover band,
Sure.
like
Steelin' Dan.
Led Zeppelin was one that played, and Sticky Fingers was a great Stones tribute. So we had 7,000 people come out to Rayleigh Field, Central Park. And the first year, though, I think it was like 5,000. The next year, so it was fun, to be able to put on those shows like that. Yeah.
So then, radio, some might say, evolved as the internet era, took over. But it got to the point where it just wasn't the same anymore, where it didn't have the same local appeal.
Well, the early mantra had been live and local, and it's neither very much anymore. A little bit of localization, a little bit of live, but primarily not. You got a lot of, it's a centralization, and I can see it coming, and it's unfortunate. Another consequence of the consolidation was having all these stations under one roof. You took away some of those radio wars, which were fun and adventuresome, but if you were under the same building, it's like, we're going to attack this. No, you're not, because we're going to protect them from this, so you guys can do this, but you can't really attack them here.
So at the time, Entercom, which later became Odyssey, which later filed bankruptcy, and now are they still called Odyssey?
Yeah.
But Entercom had a cluster that included 98 Rock. You guys bought Quad, but
took some legal wrangling to get it from Ed, but
and he changed his mind, but he tried to pretend that he was getting ripped off or something.
Well, he was getting paid $25 million.
Yeah,
which is ridiculous.
And he used that money to buy a bunch of other stations that he eventually lost because he didn't want to pay BMI and ASCAP.
There's some romanticizing about the old days and local owners when there were a lot of weaselly local owners. So the
would you consider Fuller Jeffrey back when it was K-pop a local owner? Or
it was the small corporate, but they were. I knew both Doc Fuller and JJ Jeffrey. I talk with them all the time, and JJ helped design the new studios that opened in '89, where we were for a number of years there on Madison Avenue, and he took my input. Hey JJ, how about it? So I helped design some of the ergonomics and layout of that
using
station.
Your engineering
part of it, and just my my experience with studios too. Exactly. So kind of a technical approach to it, and he listened to it. So you had access to them, and they listened. Yeah. And so in corporate days, you lost the competitive edges, but there was a buzz in that station. If we weren't at the Eagle or 93 Rock doing something, 98 Rock at that time, doing something, then maybe the End was doing something and had I can remember being in my studio and looking up and going in the hallway, and it's like, that guy that just passed me was ludicrous. It's like, who was this young lady coming? Rihanna? She was an up-and-coming artist.
107.9 The End, the famous station that got taken down because of their water drinking death in, I forget what year it was, but it
2007.
Yeah, so they had a bad contest, which went against my thinking, because I never wanted to go into radio stunts that were dangerous.
Dangerous, and even if it wasn't, and I knew it was dangerous, so they had asked me, I would have said, don't do it. But to have it where the winner's going to end up throwing up or something, it's like, hey, just don't do that. Yeah. So
they won a big lawsuit. The family won a lawsuit against the End.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, the End ended.
Well, what
and then
happened
came
was,
back as a station later on.
Well, what happened was that Entercom did a merger with CBS.
Okay.
A couple of years later.
Bad merger.
Yeah, but to accomplish it, they had to just basically jettison 107.9 The End and all those legal baggage to clear the way for the merger.
Okay.
That's how I understand it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm simplifying, but I
So
think
that
that's
merger,
basically it.
Intercom bought CBS Radio, which was like the
Massive.
leading or number one or number two
Yeah.
chain at the time in radio, but it didn't pay off.
Yeah.
The stock just went down and it went bankrupt.
Yeah.
But what was wrong?
They overpaid, I think is what it is.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
The business model for radio doesn't work anymore. And I think in the early days, like I say, as a production director, I produced hundreds and thousands of commercials. And some of them were very mundane, but occasionally I'd get a piece of copy that would come in, or I would write you're going to give me the freedom, let me write something creative for you. And you could tell a little story in there. And have a commercial that's actually entertaining.
Yeah.
What an idea. So I think that and we limited the number of commercials that we played. We were pretty strict on it in the early days.
We did too. We only had 2 stop sets an hour, and they each were 5-minute maximum.
4 minutes for us initially.
Okay.
So 2 stop sets, 4-minute max. We're not going to we're going to reject certain advertisers, and because now you've got
We didn't
like
do that, but
snake
I wish
oil
we
and
would.
boner pills or whatever. It's like they'll accept anything, and you've got these 10-minute stop sets or whatever. They're just ridiculous, and I think that radio stopped paying attention. I'll say this, that like we're going to have a 1-hour music sweep. Well, in order to do that 1-hour music sweep, then at the end of it, you cram a whole bunch of commercials in there. Well, people don't tune in.
Right.
So it's like your ratings can be great. You're saying, oh, Mr. Advertiser, we've got 50,000 people listening. Well, not during this 10-minute stop set. They're not
right,
listening.
where we want to buy time somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think the business model stopped working.
Yeah,
And it's not going to get any better.
I don't know if it ever was that great of a business model, because what is the product? That really the way radio works has been the product has been the audience, and you sell the audience to advertisers. But it seems like the greatest radio stations where the on-air product was the product.
Yeah. The synergies when everything worked right, which it did, and there were some clients who had tremendous success. Let me tell you, from some of the local clients,
Local restaurants.
Clubs.
Yeah.
Wild Bill's Tattoo.
Because it went along with the music.
Or the lifestyle of the listener.
Right.
It's something the listener. Hey, I like when Wild Bill let me do creative spots, and I had some of my favorite radio spots were for Wild Bill's Tattoo, because he knew to let me be creative, and that was a time when hey, women are getting tattoos too, So he really got a lot of business from that, and then he turned around and during our UC Davis telethons, we were doing fundraisers for the Children's Hospital. We raised over the course of 7 or 8 years. We would dedicate a 3-day weekend to the Children's Hospital, all the radio stations there. And we raised several $1 million for the Children's Hospital. And Wild Bill himself, talking with me about it, and hey, you're going to get some publicity on this, and they donated an entire day's wages to the Children's Hospital. So now they've donated over $300,000 to the Children's Hospital.
Wow.
So you get a local client who helps out a local charity, and it's just
right. Wasn't the Local Licks CD series also a charity?
Mustard Seed School.
Yeah.
That was Laura's initial thing. That
What
she had been
was
working.
Mustard Seed
It was
School?
like education for children of homeless people, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was that was Laura's sweet spot, and she would go down and volunteer as well. I will say that I helped Laura get started as well. She was hanging around the station working as a receptionist.
Yeah.
And
Laura Engel now with what Newsmax or
News-
something.
News Nation.
Yeah.
News Nation.
She went national on Fox for
Fox.
a while, and then went to this other thing.
Yeah,
News
and so, but she had just been a local girl who hung out, got hired as a receptionist. I needed female voices for some of the things I'm producing, and so she was willing to do it, and I coached her. So I was like one of the first people that's coaching voiceovers, So, and she credits me for that, but she ran with it. She did really well.
So as a morning man, that must have been a lot of extra work compared to afternoons, right?
Well, the main thing is getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Discipline to do that, man. You can't do the late night shenanigans
Yeah,
anymore. You
right.
gotta be disciplined, or man, you're gonna be fried pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just getting there to the station was a challenge, right?
In radio, and this is true in a lot of jobs, show up on time, sober. Now you're ahead, especially in radio, you're ahead about 3/4 of the people now.
Back when it wasn't voice tracked.
Yeah.
You had actual operators on the air.
And that was, COVID accelerated the decline of radio, which was already in a tailspin. But during the COVID years, 2020, I fired Brian Lopez, was my essentially program director of the Eagles. I fired him, and it became more centralized. Fired the promotions team, which is again this like your street team that I wanted to go out with. So it's like it just started
increase in voice tracking. Right?
Increase the voice tracking, and I did it only for a few weeks, and as soon as I could get back in the studio, I did it. But it was empty in there. The studio was empty, and it also changed our final bastion of listening had been car radios. People weren't driving as much, so they're now more accustomed to using their devices to listen.
Yeah.
And then social media just eventually too, the folks who wanted to, maybe, because sometimes some of your people would be, would give you material that you'd use their voice on the air, and well, then they started being able, well, I can do it myself on my Facebook page, and they're their own little star there, so.
Right. So here we are in 2026. You're retired now. So what do you think? Do you live the life you've wanted to live?
I'm satisfied with my career, and I'm satisfied I was able to go out on my own terms, which doesn't happen very often in radio. I decided when to go. I had the last week, I had lots of guest appearances and phoning in, and just to wrap up a little bow on my career and have an amicable split, not have any bitterness or cynicism. And I loved it. I was 40 years that I did radio, and there was never more than a 2-week period that I was off the air. And usually it was less than that, maybe a week's vacation. And I didn't love every minute, but it was a wonderful career. It changed, and I no longer want to do it. I wish people luck who are still doing it. It's success, but it's not my game anymore.
Well, Charlie Thomas, great talking with you. Thanks a lot, and good luck in the future.
Thanks, Alex.
All right.
Appreciate it.